Good morning. Welcome to Bay Area UU Church. I'm Reverend Katie McQuage-Loukas, and my pronouns are she and hers. Whoever you are, whomever you love, however you arrived here this morning in body or mind or heart or spirit, whether you're here with us today in person or coming to us online now or at some future time, you are welcome here. If this is your first visit, we welcome you. If this is your 500th visit, we welcome you. We are glad that you are here. To love life is to notice the wonders that abound. And to notice the wonders that abound is to be grounded in the here and now. And to be grounded in the here and now is the beginning of finding love for this life today. Let us ground ourselves in this instant in the worship of all that is good and right.
Good morning. In times of darkness, we stumble towards the tiny flame. In times of cold, we seek the warming fire. In times of repression, we reach for the lamp of truth. In times of loss, we pray for the comforting light. In times of joy, we light a candle of celebration. Spirit of life, as we kindle this light, help us find what we need this day. And Evelyn Counts will light our chalice for us. Who, by the way, just cleaned up all the kitchen pantry.
Sometimes the vent from the air conditioning makes this a little difficult, so let's just... Patience. Be present in the moment and in this instant. Yes. I'm bringing you a candle. And yet we persist. We persist. Yes. And we will light our light. We will light our light.
Thank you, Evelyn. Okay, please stand as you are willing and able for our hymn number 83, Winds Be Still. Okay, we get to practice that one. A covenant is not a definition of a relationship. It is the framework for our relating. A covenant leaves room for chance and change. It is humble toward evolution. It claims, I will abide with you in this common endeavor. Be present as best I can in our becoming. This calls for a level of trust, courage, and sacrifice that needs to be nurtured, renewed, and affirmed on a regular basis. Please join me as we say our covenant. Love is the doctrine of this church. The quest of truth is its sacrament, and service is its prayer. To dwell together in peace, to seek knowledge in freedom, to serve humanity in fellowship. Thus do we covenant with one another.
Our responsive reading this morning is number 604 in the gray hymnal. Number 604, A Vessel So Sacred. Please join in with me on the italicized text. Those who would take over the earth and shape it to their will never, I notice, succeed. The earth is like a vessel so sacred that at the mere approach of the profane, it is marred, and when they reach out their fingers, it is gone. For a time in the world, some force themselves ahead, and some are left behind. For a time in the world, some make a great noise, and some are held silent. For a time in the world, some are puffed fat, and some are left hungry. For a time in the world, some push aboard, and some are tipped out. At no time in the world will one who is sane overreach, overspend, overrate.
There is a balm in Gilead to make the wounded whole. There is a balm in Gilead to heal the sin-sick soul. Sometimes I feel discouraged and think my work's in vain, but then the Holy Spirit revives my soul again. There is a balm in Gilead to make the wounded whole. There is a balm in Gilead to heal the sin-sick soul. Sometimes I feel discouraged and think my work's in vain, but then the Holy Spirit revives my soul again. There is a balm in Gilead to make the wounded whole. There is a balm in Gilead to heal the sin-sick soul.
Good morning.
I invite the young and the young at heart to come up and sit with me so that you can view the pictures as I tell the story. Kristen, will you come up? Or Kaylee, I'm sorry. And Amelia. And Izzy. Our story today is Don't Hug Doug. He doesn't like it. It's just not my thing. Some people love hugs, but lots of people don't. And lots of people are somewhere in the middle. So Doug wants you to read this book and then answer this very important question. Do you like hugs? Because everybody gets to decide for themselves whether they want a hug or not. You can hug a pug. Aw. You can hug a bug. Maybe. Or a slug. Ooh. But don't hug Doug. He doesn't like it. No hugs, please. There are lots of things Doug does like. He likes to sort his rock collection and try on his sock collection and draw with his chalk collection. And he really likes harmonica bands. But he doesn't like hugs. So no matter how huggable he looks, no matter how much you want to, even if it's his birthday, please don't hug Doug. I'm just not a hugger. What about hello hugs? No. What about goodbye hugs? Nope. And as he's saying that, he's fist bumping. What about game-winning home run hugs? Uh-uh. What about dropped ice cream cone hugs? Still no, but I'd love another scoop. There's only one kind of hug Doug likes. He likes a not squeezy, not squashy, not squishy, not smoothly, just right bedtime hug from his mom. Is it bedtime? Are you Doug's mom? No? You're not? So don't hug Doug. Thanks, but no thanks. Can you hug these people? Doug's best friend, Finn. Grandma, McGinn. An identical twin. This kid? There's only one way to find out. Ask. Can I hug you? Not now, gotta roll. Can I hug you, Grandma? Yes, I've always loved hugs, and I always will. Can I hug you? One says what? Yes. And one says no. Can I hug you? Bagu baga baba. That's a baby, and what does that mean? Yes. Can you hug Doug's pet pot-bellied pig? Ask. Can we hug your pet pot-bellied pig? Yes, she loves hugs, but be gentle. She's a little scared of strangers. Some people love hugs, and lots of people don't. And lots of people are somewhere in the middle. Who here likes hugs? I do. Me too. I'd love a hug right now. I love hugs. I don't. Me neither. Never have. Hugs. Ugh. Sometimes from certain people. When I'm sad, on Tuesdays. So, can you hug Doug? No, he doesn't like it. Oh, nay, ugsay. But he does like you. And he likes high fives. Let me see here. He even has a high five for you. Go ahead, ask. Hey, Doug, high five? Yes, I love high fives. And thank you.
We gather today having brought our full selves into this space, bringing with us all that we have carried all week long. We come to share of ourselves with one another and to remember that we are not alone. Before we bring our own individual cares to the table, will you light a couple of candles for me? Thank you. I'd like us to light a candle for the day of mourning that approaches this week, for we must have the courage to remember that Euro-American culture, especially scarcity culture, has caused tremendous harm to indigenous communities, and that for many people, this is not a week of celebration and thanksgiving. Let the flame burn with the spirit of abundance to turn us toward right relationship and committing to the freedom of all. And let us light another candle to honor Transgender Day of Remembrance, honoring the lives lost to violence this year. Let us take this moment of pause to mourn and to remember to challenge transphobia with our abundant love and to honor the abundance of gender expression as a manifestation of that love. I invite you to come forward now to light a candle for yourself, for a loved one, for the world, for your hopes or your worries, for your milestones, for your joys, for your sorrows. Whatever you bring, know that we witness it and we will hold it with you for a time. Will you light one final candle? Thank you, Terry. For all who are not with us this morning, especially for those who are watching online, we know that you are here with us. Also for those who are traveling, for those who live in our memory, you too are held in our hearts and in our prayers. I bring us this morning a poem that is also a meditation, so let's take a deep breath together and settle into ourselves, to our bodies, if that feels good, and into this place where we are. How good it is to center down, to sit quietly and see oneself pass by. The streets of our mind seethe with endless traffic. Our spirits resound with clashings, with noisy silences, while something deep within hungers and thirsts for the still moment and the resting lull. With full intensity, we seek, ere the quiet passes, a fresh sense of order in our living, a direction, a strong, sure purpose that will structure our confusion and bring meaning in our chaos. We look at ourselves in this waiting moment, the kinds of people we are. The questions persist. What are we doing with our lives? What are the motives that order our days? What is the end of our doings? Where are we trying to go? Where do we put the emphasis, and where are our values focused? For what end do we make sacrifices? Where is my treasure? What do I love most in life? What do I hate most in life, and to what am I true? Over and over, the questions beat in upon the waiting moment. As we listen, floating up through all the jangling echoes of our turbulence, there is the sound of another kind, a deeper note which only the stillness of the heart makes clear. It moves directly to the core of our being. Our questions are answered, our spirits refreshed, and we move back into the traffic of our daily round with the peace of the eternal in our step. How good it is to center down. Let us now take a moment of silence to seek some glimpse of our own center, that place within us where we hear the eternal. Our meditation hymn today is Meditation on Breathing. Please remain seated, and we will sing it through twice.
Today's reading is The Inward Sea by Howard Thurman. There is in every person an inward sea, and in that sea there is an island, and on that island there is an altar, and standing guard before that altar is the angel with the flaming sword. Nothing can get by that angel to be placed upon that altar unless it has the mark of your inner authority. Nothing passes the angel with the flaming sword to be placed upon your altar unless it be a part of the fluid area of your consent. This is your crucial link with the eternal.
There is a peculiar social phenomenon that I don't notice as much down here, but I noticed it a lot in Boston. Moving through crowds, on a train station or on a crowded sidewalk, people run into me constantly. It's like I'm not there, it's like I'm invisible, and I'm just in everyone else's way. And I've noticed that when Chris walks down the same sidewalk, the crowd effortlessly parts. And Chris and I are the same height. We're approximately the same width. Arguably, I have a little more bulk than Chris does. And I think we have a similar personality size, so I don't think it's a question of vibes. I think the difference is that I'm a woman. And I can't prove this because I'm never going to sit there and count. But my experience and my impression is that the majority of people who bulldoze me are white, and more often than not, they're men. I cannot think of a single time I've been just pushed out of the way by a woman who isn't white. I don't think it has happened. And so I wonder what it's like to move through the world and have paths be open before you. And I'm sure there are areas of my life where I do experience this, but they're invisible. That's the point. It feels natural. It feels that this is the way the world works. And what does it feel like when the unspoken code of the way the world works is violated? A few times I've tried to stand my ground, to really make an effort to claim my space and not be elbowed out of the way. And every single time I've done this, someone has gotten angry, like angry enough to elbow me or hip check me, even if I'm simply standing still. And this experience reveals to me the extent to which reactive and defensive feelings can lead people to not only feel entitled to the physical place where I am, but also to the body of another person. In these moments, I have become an object to someone else, perhaps literally an obstacle, and I am no longer a person. In the non-physical realm, in the place of our perception, it's a strange little statistic that in films and other forms of spoken media, 83% of narrators are male. And that ratio, weirdly, holds true in crowd scenes. In a milling crowd in the background of a movie, you might only have 17% women. And when the gender mixtures start to shift and approach parity, viewers, men and women alike, perceive that scene to be dominated by women. Australian feminist scholar Dale Spencer did a lot of work in the 1980s, and she recorded her teaching sessions so that she could actually document every single moment spent engaging with particular people. And she fairly routinely made an effort to call on her female students. She is a scholar of gender and feminism. And she discovered that at no point did she ever achieve parity. Even on the days that she felt like she'd overdone it, that she'd pulled women into the conversation enough to dominate it, she found she actually had not. She'd never reached 50%. She asked the students in those sessions for their own evaluations, and she found that the women were fairly accurate in estimating percentages of speaking time, whereas the male students routinely said the conversations were dominated by the women. The tipping point appeared to be about 30%. Whenever women took up more than 30% of the airtime, they were perceived as taking more than their fair share. And I had some trouble trying to find similar studies on race. One of the great tragedies of my life is that when you finish grad school, you lose a little bit of library access. But I do know this. We human beings are really, really bad at perceiving fairness and reality. When people are asked, what percentage of Americans do you think are gay and lesbian, survey respondents will say 25%. The reality is 3 to 10%. Asked about what percentage of Americans are Black, respondents say 40%. The reality is 12%. Asked what percentage of the United States is Christian, respondents say 57%, and the answer is 70. It's really hard for us as human beings to figure out what's the right size. There's a lot of over, there's a lot of under, too much, or not enough. And these misperceptions routinely undercut support for diversity initiatives because they reinforce impressions that some other person is claiming more than their fair share, even when that's numerically and statistically untrue. And I think this speaks to something we rub up against into a lot of areas of life. Racism, sexism, classism, all these forms of hierarchy and status are coming from this perception that we have to fight for what is ours, and that any shift in the balance of our lives becomes a competition for what little there is, and that there will not be enough to go around. There's not enough space, enough power, enough money, enough resources, enough time, and there are winners and losers in this game, so now it's us versus them. And this backlash, the drive to control other people, to put the other people in their place, it's important to remember that it comes from this place of fear. It comes from the place where an incredibly dominant religious group, the Christians that make up 70% of this country, routinely claim to be a persecuted minority under threat. It comes from the place where affirmative action outcomes that in no way approximate actual population numbers somehow take away from someone what is rightfully theirs. And there's an ethic of control here coming from perception, not reality. And the important thing, I think, is that you can't argue with this place from reality and statistics. It's all feelings, sensations, and perceptions. In the 2016 election, there was a lot of analysis leaning heavily on the idea of economic anxiety as the reason for Americans turning towards a more authoritarian style of politics. But again, actual numbers don't bear that out. What the numbers do bear out is that people who express anxiety are doing fine right now. Looking ahead, looking around them, that's less certain. That feels precarious. And the only way to maintain what they seem to believe is theirs is to try to recreate a less precarious time, a time that appears in the glow of nostalgia to be stable and safe, a time when people knew what was what, who they are, where they stood, and life was better. In Let Your Life Speak, Parker Palmer writes of nature's cycles of abundance and scarcity, the turning of the year throughout the seasons. And he says that human nature seems to regard perpetual scarcity as the law of life. Daily I am astonished at how readily I believe that something I need is in short supply. If I hoard possessions, it is because I believe there's not enough to go around. If I struggle with others over power, it is because I believe that power is limited. If I become jealous in relationships, it's because I believe that when you get too much love, I will be shortchanged. The irony, often tragic, is that by embracing the scarcity assumption, we create the scarcities we fear. If I hoard material goods, others will have too little, and I will never have enough. If I fight my way up the ladder of power, others will be defeated, and I will never feel secure. He says we create scarcity by fearfully accepting it as law. Studies showed that scarcity mentalities literally reduce our capacity for empathy. A scarcity mindset further entrenches a sense of dehumanization, that other people are not entirely real, that we can move them about at will. Or, just as objectifying, that other people are suitable subjects for legislation. There's something the right is correct about that I think liberals and the left sometimes fail to fully recognize, and that is that the methodology of the state always contains an element of coercion. All the laws in the world are just words on paper until they're enforced, and enforcement is, to some extent, coercion. And so the central question of how we are to live together becomes not when is it appropriate for the state to be a busybody and be in everyone's business, but the real question actually is when is it appropriate for the state to use force? The unsettling thing about this perspective is that those tidy periods of history that people want to recreate were sustained through power, control, and oppression. They, the other, had to be controlled so that we could maintain a way of life. And it feels that most of what is wrong with the world comes from this possessive mentality, one that even sees it as possible to own the world, to own the land, to own people. The underlying message is that there is not enough, there will never be enough, so grab all that you can. And this is an uneasy intersection where a scarcity or zero-sum mindset regarding power and resources and the fear of what might unravel if current trends continue meets this understanding of the potential power of the state. All the legal decisions that are arising that restrict freedom arise from this place, this idea that it's appropriate to use the power of the state to coerce other people in the name of order or safety or stopping a shrinking way of life. And it comes from the idea that our body and psychic integrity can be shaped by someone who knows what's good for us. A lot of today's service is about one's own sense of internal integrity. And that's partly about the idea that I am the authority regarding myself. My sense of myself, of who I am and how I must live my life, only I can know that. My link to the eternal is my own. No one else can sense it or know what arises from it. And so when we attempt to define who others are and how they should live, it's a violation of a sacred integrity. And I think it's important to see the biggest possible picture, the widest lens. As Unitarian Universalists, we commit to self-determination for all people. We do affirm that each person knows themselves best and has the ability to articulate what that is and the right to live that out. And committing to that blows up a lot of hierarchy and order. And most importantly, it states that no other person is entitled to the body of any other person. We, as Unitarian Universalists, believe that each person has integrity that ought to be inviolable, and that is nevertheless challenged on a regular basis. And I come to this way of thinking through the lens of reproductive rights, historically, and at this moment, those rights are under tremendous pressure. But over time, I've come to widen my gaze to include a broader and more holistic vision of justice and freedom. The question becomes not simply how do I preserve the rights to my body, but how do I preserve the rights to my whole life? To think holistically of justice and not just about individual rights means to ask the question, not only how to preserve the right to not bear a child, but the right to bear a child. The ability to build a life that is conducive to being the family you wish to be. And so gender comes into play here, but also race, socioeconomic status, geography, employment, whatever it is that prevents a person from having a whole integrated life. Pro-choice, pro-life, these labels focus on a moment of decision. But they don't focus on the legacy of forced sterilization in this country. And to be coerced, forcefully prevented from having a child, is just as much a violation as being forced to bear a child. And what of mass incarceration or family separations at the border or the appalling state of maternity care in this country? The farther we step away from the individual's right to a particular moment of health care and the wider our lens grows, the more apparent it becomes that the legality of abortion is a bare minimum. To widen the frame still further brings marriage equality into the picture, access to health care, access to education. And the other thing about knowing our own integrity and the boundaries of ourselves is to realize that that place of fear and scarcity comes when that is off-centered. And it leads people to attempt to restrict what children can access at school. It is fear and scarcity that people are coming from when they attempt to place limits on how children, youth, and adults express identity. And so a broader framework of justice and freedom asks for more of us. It demands that we examine every way in which human beings are treated as objects or as property or as incapable of taking care of themselves and making their own decisions. How do our perspectives change when we do actually feel that we have enough? When we are centered within ourselves, and when we know that there really is enough for everyone? If I myself am free from fear, I will, I hope, not see another's flourishing as a threat to me. Instead, I would encourage it, support it, and rejoice in it. And I think that if we as a people are free from fear, there's a possibility of finding more loving and open hearts. It taps into the elements of cooperation in our nature, which are just as present as our competitive instincts. We are social beings, and we are meant to flourish together with open minds and open hearts. And I don't think I can change the mind of someone with a worldview wholly opposed to my own. And in some ways today, I might be very literally preaching to the choir. But in some ways, I want to parallel my sermon from last week in saying that the point of religious community is not perhaps to immediately solve a problem, though it's fantastic when we can do that, but to help us think through and imagine something better, something different from the world we live in right now. The point of religious community is to help us as individuals find within us that place of inner integrity so that we can come together as a community to do thinking and dreaming together and to begin to build the world we're dreaming of. To return again to Parker Palmer, he writes, "In the human world, abundance does not happen automatically. It is created when we have the sense to choose community, to come together to celebrate and share our common store. Whether the scarce resource is money or love or power or words, the true law of life is that we generate more of whatever seems scarce by trusting its supply and passing it around. Authentic abundance does not lie in secured stockpiles of food or cash or influence or affection, but in belonging to a community where we can give those goods to others who need them and receive them from others when we are in need." As commercialized and historically problematic as Thanksgiving is, the idea of it, a day to celebrate our abundance, to practice gratitude, leads us to a place of celebration and generosity. At this moment in the cycle of the year, we're entering that period of open-heartedness and celebration as we approach all of the winter holidays as well. And so at this time, let us begin to reach deep within ourselves for that centered place where we can find a spirit of abundance and gratitude, so that we might grow the generous spirits required to seek justice and freedom for all. And let us remember that it is in solidarity and mutual care that we have the best chance of finding freedom for ourselves. Each week we give, hopefully from a place of gratitude and abundance. This week, we are not just supporting our own community, but the community beyond our doors. So I'd like to ask Ken to come up and talk a little bit about Mercy Tree, with whom we are sharing our plate today.
Hello, everyone. Mercy Tree, yeah. Let's do a quick audience participation question. How many people here feel that a plain bologna sandwich, a bag of chips, and a glass of water is a full meal?
I mean, I'm not going to say I've up as a full meal for myself.
What Mercy Tree does is they furnish lunches for those who are in need. Our piece in this, and we furnish one of these sessions a month, is we serve what I like to call real food. Today's luncheon is one of our Mercy Tree meals that we do consistently. It is roast chicken, roasted potatoes, green beans, nice salad, good beverage, fruit. We make sure that they have a good, healthy something. The Share a Plate today, this is meant to cover all of our expenses for the coming year on Mercy Tree. Just a little something there. How do I put this? We got involved with this about 3 years ago. And it has been a definite outreach from our organization. It is all volunteer driven, which, by the way, we can use help. And it is a very, very needed thing for the community. Like I said, what we're giving them, other than the solidarity, for lack of a better word, is a real healthy something. In many, many, many cases, this lunch is probably their only meal of the day, and quite possibly their best meal of the week. So we try, the whole idea is obviously to keep everyone healthy. So please give. Like I said, this is meant to cover for the coming year. So thank you.
I'll announce that for the mic, just in case anybody needs a little bit of a boost. Ken is reminding us that if you can't stay for lunch today, you can still go pick up a plate of food and take it with you.
And now please join me in saying, this gift from the abundance of my life blesses me, our ministries, and the world. Thank you. And we have two brief announcements before we start from Candy Torres and Cliff Grimm.
Good morning. I wanted to let you know that November is Native American Heritage Month. It is also Puerto Rican Heritage. Woohoo! Just to let you, I am 100% Puerto Rican. I've done the DNA and the genealogy. I am certified Native American. So the Taínos were on the island. We'll have a discussion later on. I just want to open this up between what's Taíno and what's Boricua. We call ourselves Boricua. Anyway, so the Taínos were on the island when, to put it gently, the Spaniards came in. And then eventually when the Native Americans diminished, then Spain went to Africa. So my DNA is about 7-8% Native American, 50% European, mostly Spanish, and I'm 13 to 20% African. It runs in our family. We do have some of the traits, but it is in the DNA. It's also my genealogy, and people don't look at me and realize. That's why I keep saying, I'm Puerto Rican, talk to me. So today in Puerto Rico, it's November 19th, in 1493 is when the Spaniards came to the island that became Puerto Rico. So that was just want to let you know, and maybe on Thursday we can talk about that. But I'm always available because I do a lot of research on the history. I know a lot of stuff. And also the future begins in the past. Thank you.
Thanks, Kim.
Hello, I just wanted to report on the results of the services auction. So we made more money than we have in many years, $10,650. And sort of interesting to break that down, the biggest amount was the sign-ups, where you sign up for an event or a party or somebody to make you bread. We earned $8,230 for that, 225 different signatures on all the different items. The live auction brought in 1,280. The help wanteds, where you could say I need help and people signed up, brought in $830. And I think we should recognize the people who did that, signed up to help people. Peter Taylor, Beth Jordan, Jane Ebone, Mike Converva, Carol Werman, Julie Blanford, Barbara Brandon, and Chris McQuage-Loukas. And then, let's see, all the other 49 people donated items, things for the auction, and 61 different people signed up. And that's it. Any questions? Oh, and the sign-ups are still going on for today in the hall, in the foyer at Cockrell Hall. You can still sign up for things that have not been signed, that are not filled up yet.
Thank you. The church recently planted 2 new trees in memoriam to Laura Dean and Fran Johnson. You've probably seen them outside. A live oak to the right of the main sidewalk entrance out here was planted to honor Laura Dean. And a red maple was planted in the backyard in honor of Fran Johnson. So immediately after today's service, Reverend Katie will lead members in a dedication to the 2 trees. So please come follow Katie and go out to the trees. And I think we're making accommodations because there's some more complex walking to get to Fran's, but you'll be able to view it. But please come join the dedication. Also, after the tree dedication today, plan to stay for Mercy Tree Lunch, which was just advertised, and learn. So you can eat some of the same food that they prepare for Mercy Tree to help the houseless. All proceeds from this lunch will be used toward funding the Mercy Tree program. So come eat good food, hang out with everybody, and have it go for a good cause for the homeless, or take it home if you want. Okay, Transgender Day of Remembrance. is an annual observance on November 20th that honors the memory of the transgender people whose lives were lost in acts of anti-transgender violence. Please join us on Monday, November 20th at 6:30 p.m. in this church sanctuary as we light candles for those lost this year. So that would be Monday. This Thursday, November 23rd at 2 p.m., please plan to join us for the BAUUC annual Thanksgiving Day potluck in Cockrell Hall. Our kitchen volunteers will be preparing turkey, stuffing, and mashed potatoes for everyone. Bring your family, your friends, and a delicious side dish to share. Good food and great fellowship. Now that's something to be thankful for. If you're not on our email list, you can sign up on our website at bauuc.org. We send out an email of BAUUC news every Tuesday that contains these and many other activities that are happening in our church. Busy times. Please stand as you are able and join us for hymn number 108, My Life Flows On in Endless Song.
When we take fire from our chalice, it does not become less, it becomes more. And so we extinguish our chalice, but we take its light and warmth with us, multiplying their power by all of our lives and sharing it with the world. Go in peace and blessed be, except for those of you I'll be meeting out front shortly.